Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Monday, July 29th, 2024. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Monday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame here. A little bit of a pullback after a couple of weeks of selling pressure. A couple of weeks down here, Friday, a little bit of a pullback, and kind of an inside day Friday by the time it finished. Today, we're seeing an early test at two-day highs. An early test at two-day highs, and given the downtrending price action here, it could be a short-term opportunity to push prices back within the developing 2-3 day range here. We do have a ton of economic data coming out, including earnings out of some of the biggest companies out there: Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Amazon, all on deck this week. We also have Fed Week, Fed Wednesday here. July 31st, we're going to get another FOMC key level. We're going to get the FOMC statement and rate decision and the press conference. We also get NFP on Friday as we turn the page to August. So a lot coming up this week here. And at the moment here, keeping an eye on the previous two-day highs for the ES. If there's any reaction here, that could open up a return back to 5,500 from an intraday perspective, maybe even a bit lower as this market continues to work lower within this near-term downtrend at the moment. So keeping an eye on the previous session's high early this morning. If we take a look here at the NQ, similar price action for the NQ here. Friday, a little bit of a bounce back and an inside day at the moment. Price challenging the previous session's high. Two-day highs are right in that vicinity as well. Still a very clear downtrend. This is one of the widest, if not the widest, 11-day move we've seen in the NQ in at least a couple of years. Big time pullback here, much of it in 3 days. One big day, 3-day hold, one big day, 4-day hold, one big day, and a continuation. So very, very big move here. Keeping an eye on the previous session's highs. Again, if there's any kind of reaction here, we could be looking at price rotating back down within the previous session's range, perhaps retesting 19,175 below, which is the previous week's close from an intraday perspective. So still kind of downtrending at the moment, but a lot coming up this week, especially tech earnings. Looking at crude oil. Crude oil right now down about 0.2%. This thing gapping up though, hanging in there right now. This could be a bit of a rollover gap here, or just a different type of gap here. Actually, this thing capped up and is filling back down, so that's what happened here. But at the moment, we're seeing range-bound action, and that range-bound is kind of up a day, down a day between 76 and 79. Before, we were looking at prices sitting just above 80 and mentioned if we break 80, we have a trip down to 76 that could be ahead. Once we get 76, this thing could bounce back toward 80. It looked like it started to here on a Thursday, but instead a big time flush the very next day. So we have ourselves a trading range here between 76 and 79. Very similar to kind of the range we have seen before in the same area where price kind of gets stuck in this zone. You can see right here, this is 76 just like we have now. 79 is about right there just like we have now, and that's a similar range that developed. You had this range here, now we have this developing range, so we could be stuck mostly in the range here. If you fail at 76, that opens up 72.5 down below. Right now anticipating this market kind of staying mostly in range, but still with a short-term downward bias. We take a look here at gold futures. Gold right now up about 0.5% at the moment. Bit of a gap up and holding, and now sitting near the top end of its range. One of the things we mentioned before is once it rejected 2480, we were looking for a return back toward 2350 at the very least. That's the middle of this range. It got there, and then 2 days later here we've bounced back up, especially with a rollover gap here in gold. Sitting near 2450 now. This could be the upper end of this move right now as we continue to see price action, the upper distribution of this larger range. At some point, we could be looking at a return back toward 2350 down below. So right now, kind of an uptrend or up move here. modestly, but this could find some resistance in the 2450 area for a return trip back toward the middle of the larger range. Looking at the YM right now up about 1/3%. This thing had a big squeeze on Friday. Huge earnings out of Triple M pushed this thing way up on Friday's session. Now holding at these highs here. Now this market right now continues to hold the top edge of its larger range. You can see right here, that top end of that zone here has become support now after breaking through and holding. So this thing continues to outpace a bit right now, especially tech to the upside. Keep an eye on this 41,000 level here. If any rejection begins to happen here, it could be a lower high that brings us back down. Now, is this market going to return all the way back to the previous month's close, previous quarter's close? That's going to be that 39.5 level. That's also right where we have the FOMC key level from March as well. So keeping an eye on 41K to see how this market responds to that zone. Now looking at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's up pretty decently here this morning, 2.6% right now. We've seen this thing kind of find a strong low Thursday and then snap to the upside, back above 70K right now for this one. And again, what we've mentioned before is once we start to see the spot Ether ETFs start to trade, we could see a little bit of a pullback. We did. Once that pullback has materialized, we could begin to see a very positive forward motion to the upside and perhaps go retest new all-time highs into that 74K and break beyond it. So right now, early strength out of this one with a shot to go find prices above 72.5 and beyond. Looking at ETH, lastly here, this one's up 3% right now. Had a big flush on Thursday, held the 3100 level. This is something we mentioned before in this narrow range. Do we flush back down? If we test value, that could be a check mark opportunity for a push back toward 4,000 up ahead. So right now it's break even for the month at the moment, working off the recent lows. But again, this has a shot to really open things up, not only to the upside at the top of the range at 4,000, but perhaps even an upside break through the top of that area. This thing's coiled up real nicely with a shot to really get some open air to the upside. And we do have some big time targets coming into view up ahead. 5,000 and 5,200 could be the next major upside target for this one, sitting at 3,400 right now. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this develops here heading into a big week for the market. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.